Well, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Professor Jen here. Number one of our coffee table chats, lecture cast series. I'll say 2025. Happy New Year. Up here, I have a little picture of what my garden looks like in the spring/summer. Sergey, my son, and I have been working on these gardens now for almost a decade. And I just find them very inspirational. I am very excited to be here with you today. Today, the purpose of our lecture cast is to provide an introduction and a brief lecture about what we will be discussing in this course. I want to tell you that I will go over the syllabus, just a cursory review of the syllabus. If there's anything in depth, you can ask in chat, certainly so everybody else can see the question, etc. But I'm going to go over the syllabus right now. Anyhow, there is no formal text for this book, though. If you would like reading materials, you can ask me, and I will provide for you probably about 24 books you can go out and buy, but I don't think it's necessary. The reason I don't think it's necessary is because this is such a specific subject matter as it relates to pop culture. As it says in the course description from the college, we will be talking about foundational pieces, Shakespeare and fairy tales, etc., which are part of the canon of literature that has been well established. And as you might have already figured out, we can really access all of the things that we need to access for free. If I were to use a formalized textbook, it wouldn't have everything that I need in it because everything that we're going to do in this course is so exciting that there would be no one publisher that handles all this. Therefore, we'd have to buy several books. I don't feel like bankrupting anybody. I've been in this business such a long time. I've been discussing these subjects such a long time. It's been really 40 years of classical training in literature, the arts, etc., authors, film, that I feel that I have enough ingenuity, enough patience, enough assistance, enough knowledge to pull what we need to pull from online, from the internet. I will share with you links weekly. I will tell you where to go to find everything at no cost. And I feel that confident in my skill set, that proud to offer you a text-free opportunity where I pull it all together for you functionally, where it makes sense at no cost, and we just move from there. So that's the first answer to that question. Anyhow, office hours, I'm able to be reached Monday through Friday, really until 8 o'clock at night, earliest 10 a.m. in the morning. I do teach other classes on campus, which might work for some of you. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I can be found on campus anytime from 11:30 in the morning in spring of 2025 from 11:30 in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if I don't pick up the phone on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, now you know why. I'm in a classroom. But I'm so happy to speak with people that certainly you can access me to have formal office hours by phone. We can have video conference. We can have in-person office hours. The only thing is that by 5 o'clock on Friday, I don't work. I don't work 5 o'clock Friday till Monday morning. Uh, and I'm completely accessible weekends. I'm just not accessible. So there we are with the office hours. I did provide for you on the syllabus my personal cell phone. Obviously, I don't have a lifestyle that I sit at an office all day. I'm very blessed in that. I'm on the move. And so you can be on the move with me. And again, use the number that I gave you. It's not a problem for me. And I'm very happy to dialogue with any student anytime within the 5 day a week model, usually daytime, right into 8 o'clock at night. Anyhow, I'm so excited. We have so many wonderful things coming up. I'm going to give you a little overview again of what the assignments will look like on Fridays. I always post all of the assignments online. I will post them through my courses, and they will be in an assignment folder. And the assignments get posted on Friday. You have the entire week for the following Friday to put them where I tell you to put them. Now, the My Courses package has a Dropbox for every week. Even though there's a Dropbox for every week, that doesn't mean we're going to be using a Dropbox for every week. I didn't write the My Courses program. I have no way, because it's a package service, a delivery method. I have no way to alter it, so the drop boxes stay there whether we use them or not. But not to worry, I've been teaching online now. It doesn't feel like it, but it is 13 years. I've taught, about 3, 4 dozen classes online. So, I'm used to this. I realize maybe some of you aren't used to it, but don't worry. I make allowances for everything. On the Friday nights, every single Friday night for this entire semester, I will post the assignment, and then you will have a week to do it. I will tell you exactly where to put the assignments, whether it will be in class chat and or the Dropbox. So not to worry. In this class, participation is extremely important and you will get points. Every single Monday, I grade the class on my courses. So every single Monday, you will have an idea of exactly where you stand in the classes. There will never be a situation where you will say to yourself, I don't know what my grade is, and I have no idea where I stand in this course. You will know weekly. The nice thing for you is that if you're missing points, you can always contact me and we can figure out as a team how you're going to make up the missing points. So it's really not an issue. So again, the assignments will be every Friday. You'll have a week. And on Mondays, I'm going to put the grades in for you so you know exactly where you stand. So we have the weekly discussion chats, which is a wonderful model, place to share ideas, etc. Don't worry, you'll know the topics that'll be in the assignment for that week. We also have 2 lit reviews. They're going to work beautifully for you. It's an excellent format because that way we don't have a formalized midterm. Instead, we have these lit reviews. As we get closer to the lit reviews, I will discuss exactly what I'm looking for. To let you know, for Lit 1 review, you will have to watch any play of your choice by any production company of Shakespeare, a play. You pick the play, you pick the production company, or if you'd rather read any play that you wish, because literature review number 1 is going to discuss some aspect of character development, etc., uh, emotions of the character, what's going on in the play, etc., how it's handled, the scenario, the details, how it fits into the 4 theories, perhaps the psychoanalytic dynamic. Is it going to be a gender and queer study dynamic? Is it going to be a Marxist dynamic, a social schematic dynamic? We'll discuss this even further, but all you need to know now is that you're responsible no later really than week 3, because you're going to need to have it in order to write it for week 4. You have to either read a play of your choice and or see a production, which you can do online at no cost, many productions of one of Shakespeare's plays. So we have the 2 lit reviews. We have the question of the week. Every week you'll get a question of the week. It really works out well. I'll tell you why. There's no formal final for this course. Instead, what happens is the question of the week, I ask every week. It's marked QOW for question of the week. Again, it'll be in the assignment weekly. Friday nights I post it. You're not going to send me the answers every week for that. Instead, you're going to save all the QOWs. There'll be somewhere between 10 to 15 of them. At the end of the semester, during finals week, you will send me in a file all of the QOWs. That will be instead of a formalized final. Works very well. People love it. I love it. It's just a champion way to handle subjects where we're thinking on a weekly basis to build our entire intellectual library in our minds. Works beautifully. Anyhow, that's really the basis of how we get all of the grades in for this course. Again, if you wind up missing some of the pieces, you will know weekly where you are point-wise. Don't wait too long to contact me to say, Professor Jen, I really want to make up some of the work, but we need to have a plan. We can always do that. Let's talk more about the course. So as you see in the course description that the college provides, they provide an excellent overview of what's going to happen. I'm going to explain to you exactly how we're going to do it. I am very excited. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. So for the first 4 weeks, if you see on the syllabus, we're going to talk really about Shakespeare. We're going to talk about character development, the psychoanalytic approach, gay and queer studies approach, What is it that he's looking to do within culture and context of his time with his characters, his plays, mores, and values? Of course, then we're going to spend the next 4 weeks talking about, as you see on the syllabus, fairy tales. We're going to talk about what is the purpose of the fairy tale? Why were they told? What was the audience? What was the expected outcome of the fairy tale? Here's the best part. Then we wrap up the course in the final weeks. We will talk about gaming as it relates to pop culture, character development. Have we seen these kinds of issues and subjects before? And then we'll talk about more contemporary pieces, which have to do again also with pop culture, looking at the backdrop of Shakespeare and fairy tales, right? Where have we seen these stories before? Here's a good question. Think about this. Why do we keep retelling certain stories? Why is it for thousands of years in a variety of literature, in all kinds of shows, in all kinds of performance, we see all of these writers giving us critical pieces that we're telling the same story over and over again? What is it that these stories, this character development shows us? What is it that it tells us? Is it really, and it's just a question, doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong, just something to think about. Does it really mean that in our focus for these next 15 weeks, does it mean for us that literature in this particular context, especially looking at Shakespeare, fairy tales, Aesop's fables, and of course our contemporary writers that have really exploded onto the scene last 50, 60, 70 years uh, in pop culture? Is it that we're trying to understand the human experience? Is it that we're trying to make sense out of the current world that we're living in? Is it that we're trying to understand dynamics between people? Is it that we're trying to understand relationships, how they play out, how depression looks, how isolation looks, how it feels to be perhaps, we say in Great Britain and many other far more established countries over the centuries, how it looks and appears to be part of the underclass, the social strata? Is it that we're trying to understand who we are in the backdrop of everything that's around us, to self identify, to find out where it is that we fit with others, to figure out sometimes in a lot of ways, as we'll see with Shakespeare, where we don't fit at all? Where sometimes, as we see in the fairy tales that we're going to read, that I will reference, I will put together these little lecture casts for you weekly just to provide insights. Again, doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong. I'm just sharing with you my insights as a place to build off of. And of course, you will formulate your own insights. Is it that the fairy tale acts as a moral compass that, as we see in fairy tale, fable, the moral of the story? Is it that we're supposed to have a takeaway? Often I think of things in the realm of criminal justice, and I'll share with you why in a moment. My first true academic interest was being an English major and literature especially. I at first thought literature was going to supply me with everything I needed to know for my careers, etc., and to go into teaching as an English teacher. And then what had happened to me is that I started to look at life pragmatically, and I said there are other things I might want to do with my career. That's okay. My career found me. I wound up working in a correctional facility, and they hired me as an English major, knowing that I was an English major, to run a very large educational program. I now look back and I realize one of the reasons for consideration, among many other, was that I could read, interpret policy, interpret state law, interpret funding streams, and then, of course, the idea that if you read well, you usually write well translated into I would be writing grants, which is what I did for many years of my life. Worked with persons in the criminal justice system, provided educational programs and opportunities, and wrote grants. So many of these experiences, having been a well-read person, reading about different kinds of persons, different kinds of characters, how it all ends in books, as having these kinds of experiences and getting to know language, getting to know stories, who's telling the story, why are they telling it, really helped me in my career. As I advanced, I started to read more period pieces, meaning I was so interested in criminal justice as it related to Shakespeare's time, how it related in the medieval period, the Gilded Age, the Depression Age, how it really sort of changed its compass, scope, and trajectory in the 1970s, the 80s, the 90s. What really changed how I saw my field, my craft, reading and writing, is the fact that in my lifetime, I went from no cell phone to a cell phone, from no ability to have a computer self-publish to having computer ability, having self-publish ability. And then, of course, the day Google came out, I thought to myself, why didn't I have this when I was in grade school? You know, how wonderful it would have been to be able to access information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, holidays, etc., at really no cost. And to have it portable, that I can sit on a mountaintop hanging, hiking, hanging around, eating a meal, looking at the vista, and at the same time, I can access all kinds of information, or a podcast, or electrocast, a book on tape, really anything. In Shakespeare's time, we have to think about literature. I'm going to close our electrocast today with something for you to think about, which you might have already thought about before. We look at Geoffrey Chaucer and his contemporaries, right? We look at Ralph Waldo Emerson. We look at Thoreau, right? We look at William Shakespeare. Emily Dickinson, Tennessee Williams. They had no internet. They had no ability to get on and dialogue with people. When the winter hit, it hit. It was brutal. They were stuck inside. They didn't have electricity. They wrote and lived by candlelight. They wrote and lived by daylight. They had other chores to do. They didn't have a Wegmans, Walmart, Amazon delivery system to get food. Sometimes the food procurement process of getting things for a larder, for a pantry, could take maybe even 2, 3 days in travel. Why do I mention this? I mention this because I want us to start off the semester really looking at how people's lifestyle happened to be at the time when they were writing all these pieces. What was Shakespeare facing? He was also facing the issue that there was a lot of censorship back in his day. There were a lot of things people could become imprisoned for writing. To share somebody their thoughts, to share with them thoughts. If the thoughts were the wrong thoughts, my dears, they didn't have the kinds of protections that we have today in freedom of speech, etc. They were often shunned, driven out of neighborhoods, driven out of towns, villages, etc. So when writers in the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th centuries took the risk of sharing their ideas with us, it really sometimes became a life or death matter. I say to people all the time, when I say life and death, I don't mean, beheading, the guillotine, etc. You can also kill somebody on the daily and kill their spirit, isolate them, make it so they can't join other people, make it so they become on the periphery rather than part of something. You can kill somebody's spirit daily. So these people took amazing risks. When we talk about the fairy tales, which we'll get into that shortly, not this lecture cast, in following lecture cast, we look at some of these fairy tales that were written in delivery systems with authors that are clearly from other countries, that these fairy tales have been translated for us, since here Western literature is fairly a new thing because we're really a young country. There were many people that, sometimes might have taken on pen names. I really suspect that there were many women that wrote many of the pieces that are out there in the canon, which of course is our reference point for the basis and foundation of great literature. I think to myself, there were many people that happened to have identified as women at the time, but they really weren't given these academic opportunities. Maybe they took a pen name, or maybe they really had to hand the credit off to another writer who happened to identify and be recognized as a man, and have a masculine name in order to be published. These are the things that I need us to consider right from the jump, right from the very beginning, what it is that we're looking at. You know, look at how people build characters. They build these morals of the stories, right? Fairy tales, which we'll talk about in the next several lecture casts. But just to give you a taste of where I'm coming from, it seems so formulaic, like there's always like either this very pretty fair maiden, or there's this really bad wolf, or there's this really aggressive hostile animal, or there's this really dark kind of person soul waiting in the forest. There's all of these elements that we see over and over and over again. And here we are, right? 2025, we continue to see the same elements. Again, is it because human nature really doesn't change? I'll close with this idea. Alfred Hitchcock, so many of you might know his films. His films were really revolutionary. I'll tell you why from a literary perspective. You ready? He's sort of like M. Night Shyamalan. He never really tells you what it is that you're afraid of, and I'm going to tell you why. He never shows you what's really out there that's going to get you in any of his films, because he wants you as the audience to bring your fears with you to viewing his films, and then you just put in what your fear is, and that will frighten you enough. Same with M. Night Shyamalan and so many of his dynamic films. He doesn't really deliver for us what it is you should be afraid of. He brings it to you. So I asked, when we look at Shakespeare, when we look at the fairy tales, when we look at the contemporary pieces together in our little 15-week journey, which I can't begin to tell you how excited I feel about this, that I really could take the time to put together the right course that has the right information to do with the subject than us buying a textbook that has really not much to do with our subject, but we want to make it work. We don't have to do that. We're going to do exactly what we said we were going to do. Anyhow, I want you to bring with you all of the experiences you have in being human when we look at all of these different characters, sexuality, social class, all of these things that are so important to us, how it is that it drives our daily spirit. And then from that point, look at all of the work. In other words, all the experience that you have in life is so important to bring to this class in your thinking and your being able to like really receive these characters and the full bodiness of them. Why are they acting the way that they are? Why were they constructed with this type of personality? How does a character and or a storyboard and or a theme speak to us? Anyway, I'll leave you with these ideas. We'll get to know one another more as we continue to roll along in chat, in lecture cast, etc. So I wish you all the blessings that there are. Today it's a very snowy day, definitely winter out there. I'm going to enjoy myself, taking all of the little details that a Sunday afternoon has to offer. And I wish you well. So you have a good day and blessings. Bye-bye.